Okay, I got a good one for you today. It's called Introduction to Machine Gun Target Engagement. Lesson number 941-071-0125-Foxtrot. So, we're continuing the series on my military training tapes. You may have already heard this spiel, but I went and bought myself a whole library of these tapes, vintage 1978 or so, according to some of the label dates on a couple of them. Apparently the Army had a very elaborate training program. I did a little research. There was a machine that projected slides and read the tapes at the same time. The name escapes me. I've been working really hard at school and doing my full-time job too, so my memory is crap. So, but tell you what, you want to learn anything about Darfur, just ask me, because I am so full of Darfur. I got Darfur coming out of my ears. Pretty bad situation there, but that is a situation where you might need to learn how to do some target engagement. So I've never heard this tape before. Hopefully it's good, and let me plug it in and we'll get started here. Let's see, one other thing. Yeah, I've been trying to put these on MP3 too. Kind of a shoddy deal I got here. Forgot to start it up. But, hold on here. Okay. So this is going to be the MP3 version. I'm doing a little deal. I had the little recorder too close to the cassette player, and the thing was whining and grinding and stuff, and ended up on MP3. So this time it's a little farther away. So, anyway, let's get to the meat of the matter here. Alright, let's plug this baby in. Yeah. See, one of these days I'll learn how to put the cassette in right. Got like 1,000 of them. I better learn, huh? I don't know how many I got. It was estimated about 300 pounds worth. So let's see. Volume up. Let's find out. Nothing's happening. Oh, that doesn't help one bit. I had my my jack here. Oh, by the way, this is what held up operation quite a while. Not having this this bit here. This is an adapter that lets you adapt like a little one or a big one. So anyway, let's get this going. I'm almost there. What, is this going to reach? I'm kind of running a jacked up operation here. Usually have one or the other, money or time. Sometimes neither, but for me, I don't have enough time to do this correctly, but all you gotta do is fast forward a little bit till you get some audio, you know. Okay, here we go. Let's try again.
On taking care of your machine gun, no matter if it...
Ooh. Let's rewind this baby. Is that it? Okay. Try number 22 or something.
Well, you should be pretty fresh from the tech lessons on taking care of your machine gun, no matter if it's an M60, like this one, or a caliber 50. You should already have a pretty good working knowledge of your weapon, how to take it apart, Clean it, lube it, take care of it so it'll function correctly. Now all this good stuff you already know will keep your weapon in top condition, so it'll be ready when it's needed. And it'll sure keep the company armorer happy. But do you want to know something? The world's cleanest and best functioning machine gun isn't worth a dime to the rifleman who's counting on it to back him up if the machine gunner doesn't know how to use it. That means a machine gunner's got to give that rifleman fast and accurate automatic fire. And even though you may really shine here, if you can't deliver that fire when it's needed, you'll never be the expert machine gunner you're aiming to be. But don't let it get you down. I'm going to show you what you need to know. That's what this series of lessons is all about. It'll help you become an expert gunner. Now, when you finish this first lesson, you'll be able to identify the beaten zone, grazing fire, and select how to engage different targets. Now, I'll leave these objectives up for you to study, if you like. Just push the proceed button when you want to go on. Oh yeah, you'll need paper and pencil to complete this lesson, so I'll give you time to get them. You know how to restart the tape when you're ready. These are the manuals you'll need for training on your machine gun. These manuals were being revised when this lesson was being developed. All the latest information is in this lesson and was put into the revised manuals. Now, I said before that a machine gunner needs to deliver fast, accurate fire, and that's right. But it's just a little more complicated than that. To be an effective machine gunner, you've got to accomplish 4 objectives. The first is an accurate initial burst. Achieving this objective requires correct sighting and firing of the weapon. Now, no matter which weapon you've got, the M60 or the caliber 50, by this time you should know what the correct sight picture looks like and how to fire it. Now, if you're not too sure on either of these procedures, well, you better take some time out and review Lesson 7 on the M60 or number 5 on the caliber 50. You can't hope to get that accurate first round burst without them. The second objective of marksmanship is to be able to traverse and search the gun. This simply means moving your fire from side to side, like this. That's traversing. And moving your fire up and down, that's searching. Later in this lesson, you're going to learn why this objective is so important. For now, just keep it in mind as the second of the machine gunner's objectives. The third objective is to observe and adjust fire. This means watching the strike of the rounds or the path of the tracers, and then adjusting your fire onto your target. Finally, to achieve the fourth objective takes a lot of practice. That objective is to do everything with speed. Okay, these are the 4 objectives of machine gun marksmanship. They're the goals you should be aiming toward in all your machine gun training. I'll let you copy these down so you can keep them in mind. Okay, let's look into some specifics. The round's path from the gun to the point of impact is called the trajectory. I guess you've heard that word before. And now you know what it is, the path of a round. It is flat at short ranges, but as you can see, it's got a bit of a curve to it at longer ranges. Now, as long as you're shooting one at a time, you only have one trajectory problem. But with a machine gun, you're mostly concerned with automatic fire. It looks more like this. And because of gun vibration, you'll end up with a lot of slightly different trajectories. Now, with all these different trajectories, you get a little spread along the path of the bullets and near the target end. That gives you a good area coverage as it spreads. See, it sort of makes a cone-shaped effect. This is called the cone of fire. And this will make a real difference, where all those rounds strike the ground. You can see that where all those different trajectories strike the ground, it creates kind of an oval-shaped pattern. This pattern is called the beaten zone. And that beaten zone is what you'll be most interested in. You want to make sure you put that beaten zone where it'll do the most good, right on target. Notice here that you aim at the center base of the target. By aiming at the center base, the rounds will strike any target that is within the beaten zone. Now, just to make sure you got it straight, select the letter for the beaten zone from this picture. Remember, it's the end result caused by the variations in trajectory. Go on, write down your answer. Charlie is the correct answer. The oval pattern where the rounds strike the ground. Now you keep that beaten zone in mind as we look at classes of machine gun fire. Hey, you know, there are so many classes of machine gun fire, a guy can get winded just trying to keep up with them. Well, don't worry about it. I have a simple method to help you keep track of them. All classes of machine gun fire come under one of three groups: the gun, the ground, and the target. That helps a bit. First, let's look at the classes of machine gun fire that have to do with the gun. There are 6 basic ways to classify fire with the gun. It's simple enough. They all refer to how the gunner handles the gun during firing. First, there's fixed fire, where the gun is not free to move. This is used against targets that require no movement to engage, like this bunker. Here's one you've seen before: traversing. That's moving your fire laterally from side to side, or left and right if you'd rather put it that way. You use traversing fire for wide targets, like this. And here's another one you're familiar with already: searching. That's moving the fire vertically, or up and down. Searching fire is good for targets with depth, like this one. Or you can combine traverse and search and make a whole new class: traversing and searching. Now this method's good against targets that are both wide and deep at the same time. Here's another one for you: swinging traverse. You'll need to loosen the T&E mechanism on the traversing bar for this one. You can use this method when your target's just too wide to be covered with regular traversing fire. And the last class of fire is free gun. Well, what can I say about it? Sometimes you just need a completely free gun when the other classes of fire won't do the job. To get a free gun, you simply remove the T&E from the mounting plate on the bottom of the receiver and lay the T&E forward between the tripod legs. Be careful not to remove it from the traversing bar, or you may make the data on your range card incorrect. Well, there are quite a few classes of fire, but you'll only have to worry about 2 familiar ones. These 2 right here. Recognize them? One of them is traversing, and the other searching. See if you can match them up. Write your answer. Well, that wasn't hard, was it? Alpha is traversing, moving the fire from side to side. Bravo is searching, moving the fire up and down. These are the only 2 classes of fire by the gun that you need to remember now. With the exception of fixed gun, all the rest of them are just minor variations of traversing and searching. Well, let's look at another class of machine gun fire. That's with respect to the ground, and you'll like this way because it's simpler. Now there are only 2 classes of fire with respect to the ground: grazing fire and plunging fire. And if it isn't one, it's the other. To have grazing fire, you need level ground between the gun and the target. Now with the ground fairly level like this, you can get a low trajectory that doesn't rise more than 1 meter above the ground. But don't worry about that 1 meter. The important thing is that it puts the center of the cone of fire no higher than waist high to an enemy soldier. This is very important, so let's talk about it. To make sure you get any enemy soldier who might be crawling, keep your fire as close to the ground as possible. To do this, simply search 4 clicks down by using the elevating hand wheel. This will cause a long, thin beaten zone extending from approximately 200 meters through 600 meters on level terrain. If you're shooting the M60, it has generally the same effect as the caliber 50. Of course, you can't keep a trajectory within 1 meter of the ground at all ranges. That's because you have to elevate the gun too much at long ranges, so grazing fire is limited. When firing grazing fire at its maximum ranges, the cone of fire rises high enough off the ground to permit enemy soldiers to crawl underneath it. So to get grazing fire, you have to remember 3 factors. You'll need fairly level ground between the gun and the target. You have to keep the center of the cone of fire below 1 meter high, and the range for grazing fire is limited. Just to make sure you got them straight, here are those maximum grazing fire ranges and the 2 weapons. See if you can match them up. Write your answer. Remember, we're limited to these ranges because we have to elevate the muzzle to hit targets at greater ranges. And when we do that, we lose low trajectory between the gun and the target. Now look at these pictures of 2 M60s firing. Decide which picture shows grazing fire, then write Alpha or Bravo. Alpha meets all the requirements, right? Ground, height, and range. Now just what do you think you ought to know about the other classes of fire? Plunging fire. Well, to put it simply, if it isn't grazing fire, it's what we call plunging fire. You have plunging fire when there's no level ground between you and the target, and you can't get waist-high trajectory with any kind of range. Okay, here are 2 caliber 50s working. One's firing grazing fire. Which is it, Alpha or Bravo? Write your answer. Hey, I'll bet I can't fool you. Bravo shows grazing fire, level ground, waist-high trajectory, and is in the range of the caliber 50. Well, let's move along to that 3rd way of classifying machine gun fire, okay? Machine gun fire can also be classified with the target. Just like classifying by movement of the gun, when you get to classifying by target, there are several types. Well, 4 to be exact. And they have all kinds of fancy names like oblique and enfilade, but we'll look at them and sort them out. Frontal fire is like this. Notice that the long axis of the beaten zone is at a right angle to the front of the target. Now flanking fire is like this. It's any fire that is directed against the flank of a target. The word oblique merely means at an angle. So oblique fire is any fire where the long axis of the beaten zone is at any angle except a right angle to the target. The last class of fire is enfilade, and it's a good one. Matter of fact, it's the best. Enfilade can be flanking enfilade like this, or it can be frontal enfilade like this. The secret is here. See, the long axis of the beaten zone is the same as the long axis of the target. That's why enfilade is the most desirable type of fire classified to a target. But let's get right down on that target now and decide just how you'll engage it. The first thing you need to worry about when you look at a target is whether your target's a deep target, like this one, or a wide target, like this one. Deep targets and wide targets. That's really all you have to worry about. And just to see if you really understand deep and wide targets, I'll show you some. You study the target and write down if it's a deep target or a wide target. Okay? Roll on. Okay, here's the first one. Write down alpha and whether this is a wide or a deep target. here's the second one. Again, write down the letter and what kind of target it is. And here's another one for you. Do the same as you did before. And Delta. Now just hold on to your answers because you'll have to add something to them. Okay, just why is this so important? Well, I'll tell you. The type of target you have, deep or wide, will tell you how to handle the gun to engage it. Follow? That's what I'm talking about. Traverse or search on your target depending on whether it's a deep target or a wide target. Now that makes sense, right? Okay, you think about it a minute. If you had a deep target like this one, do you think you would traverse or search? Write your answer. Which would you do, traverse or search, if you had a wide target? Write it down. Just a little common sense, right? For deep targets, you'd search, and for wide targets, you'd traverse. Study this picture as long as you like. Then I have a problem for you when you're ready to go on. You remember those 4 targets we looked at a while ago? I told you to hang on to your answers. Now I want you to write beside each answer whether you would traverse or search to engage that target. Okay? Ready to look at your answers now? Good. Alpha is a deep target, so you would search to engage it. Bravo is a wide target. To engage this one, you must traverse the gun. Charlie's another deep target, and you search the gun for this one. And you gotta traverse 4 wide targets like Delta. Well, all this gets you pretty much squared away on one of the basics of target engagement with your machine gun. But let's go one step further and briefly talk about how you would normally engage long-range targets. And to get in a little tighter on the screen, I use targets like this. Now this represents a wide target, right? So you already know you engage this target with traversing fire, right again? But I have a different question for you this time. And this one takes some thought. Where do you think your first shot, the initial burst, would go? Think your answer. Did you figure out that it should go right here in the middle? Well, that's where your initial burst should go, at the center base of the target. Why? Because you want to take maximum advantage of first round hitting with the beaten zone. And you need a good starting point to control your fire, especially when your platoon leader needs to divide the target for priority of fires. After you fire the initial burst, you traverse on the target in one direction. It doesn't matter which direction. Notice the fire is carried one aiming point beyond the limits of the target. By one aiming point beyond the limit of the target, we mean aim and fire a burst just outside the visible target limit to make sure you cover the entire target area. Now, you traverse back in the opposite direction, all the way across the target to one aiming point beyond the other limit of the target, and then back to the center. Engaging the target this way really covers the target with fire, all of it. And where was the initial burst? Right here in the middle. Now, here's a deep target, which you already know you're going to engage with searching fire, right? But where's your initial burst going to go? Where do you think it'll go? Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie? Write your answer. I'll bet you wrote Alpha, didn't you? Well, it should be Bravo. You initially engage a deep target just like you would a wide target. You aim at the middle. Why? Because that beaten zone will cover the maximum and give us a starting point for dividing the target when more than one gun is used. Of course, you should remember that SOP, priority of fires. If you had a dangerous target like this one, enemy too close, or an enemy automatic weapon, then you would engage the most dangerous target first. Now, after initially engaging the target at midpoint, you search your fire back toward your position, or down like this, to get the closer targets. Search and aim and fire, all the time making sure you search one aiming point beyond the lower limit of the target. Then search your fire away from your position, or up, and beyond the far limit of the target. Then back to the center. And again, you've covered the entire target with fire. You may study this diagram for a while if you like. So far, we've only talked about a single gun engagement, but machine guns are also employed in pairs. So let's look at engaging a target with two guns. I'll start with a question. Just where is the initial burst going to go on this target? Write your answer. That's right, at the midpoint, same as with a single gun engagement. But there's a little difference here. It's a little simpler when two guns are engaging a wide target like this. After the initial burst, the gun on the left, the number 2 gun, traverses on the target to the left. And the gun on the right, number 1 gun, traverses to the right. Notice they both traverse beyond the limit of the target. Then back to the middle, and the target is covered in fire, right? I'll leave this picture for you to study. And when you want to go on, just push the button. Now, when you have two guns and you're working against a deep target like this, your initial burst goes to midpoint. Then the number 1 gun searches the target in this direction, down and back to center. And what about number 2? Well, he searches the target in this direction, up and back to center. See, they've divided the target again and covered the entire target with fire. You can study this picture for a while. A word of caution here. A target is divided by 2 guns only when both guns can see all the target. If both guns cannot see the target, each gunner engages it as a single gun. Now, this is a different target than you've seen, so write down what kind of target it is. Hope I didn't catch you. This is a target that is both wide and deep. How do you figure you would engage this type of target? Write your answer. That's it. You traverse and search to engage it. All right, traverse and search this target. Where does the initial burst go? Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie? Again, right there at the midpoint in the target. You figure out what's next. Just think your answer. Which of these 2 arrows, Alpha or Bravo, do you think shows the correct traversing and searching of the number 1 gun? Write down Alpha or Bravo for the number 1 gun. Okay, well, you didn't think I'd just let you go, did you? Write down which arrow represents the traverse and search of the number 2 gun. The number 1 gun traverses right and searches up from his position and back again. The number 2 gun traverses to the left and searches down toward his position and back to his starting point. I'll let you look at this picture for a while too. Now, we've been talking about engaging targets during daylight hours when you can see the whole target with more than 1 gun. But what happens when you can't see the target so well during limited visibility? Well, just remember this. You'll engage targets during limited visibility just as if you were the only machine gun, as a single gun engagement. Do not divide the target no matter how many machine guns are shooting. Every gunner engages what he thinks is the center of the target. To make sure you get them all, just move your shoulders slightly from side to side while firing each burst, and that will give you a great big beaten zone. Oh sure, you have those hand wheels on that T&E to traverse and search a few clicks too. Okay, here are 2 pictures showing a single gun engaging a deep target. The initial burst in both is where it should be, at midpoint, and that's where things get different. Which of the pictures, Alpha or Bravo, shows the correct method of engaging a deep target with searching fire? Write your answer. Bravo is the correct answer. Initial burst at midpoint, search your fire down or toward you beyond the near limit of the target. Then search back up the target or away from you until you've completely covered it with fire. Here are two pictures showing two guns engaging a target that is both wide and deep. Which picture shows the correct method of target engagement? Write your answer. This time the correct answer is alpha. Both guns fire the initial burst at midpoint. The gun on the right, number 1, traverses and searches to the right and up the target. The gun on the left, number 2, traverses and searches to the left and down on the target. Well, that just about finishes up this lesson, but don't go away thinking you're an expert. We've just scratched the surface, and before I let you go, I want to ask you some more questions. Okay, write down the letter that calls out the beaten zone. Now study these two pictures of caliber 50 firing and pick the one that shows grazing fire. Write it down. Now write down what type of target this is, wide or deep, and how you'd engage it. Where would the initial burst go? Select your answer and write it down. Again, what type of target and how you would engage it. Which of these pictures shows the correct engagement of this target? Write your answer. Here's a guy trying to sneak into our position. He thinks he'll avoid our grazing fire. What should you do to prevent this? Write your answer. You ready to check some answers? Okay, here we go. Charlie shows the beaten zone. If your answer's wrong, correct it now and push the little button. The correct answer for question 2 is Bravo. This shows grazing fire. Correct your answer if necessary and move on. I'll bet I didn't catch you with this one. When you're ready to move on, well, you know how to do it. The answer to question number 4 is Charlie. That initial burst goes at midpoint in the target. And I'm sure this one didn't sneak up on you either. If it did, I'll give you a chance now to correct your answer. And for question number 6, you should have chosen Alpha. Initial burst at midpoint, traverse left, and search down on the target, and then up. Check your answer. Hope I didn't catch you with this one. All you need to do here is search downward. Now remember, this is only a beginning. The path to becoming an expert machine gunner is a long one. You have some more tech lessons to take, and like my old piano teacher used to say, you'll have to practice, practice, practice. Well, I figure you'll hang in there. We'll see you soon, okay?
You have just completed a tech lesson. Please rewind your film cartridge and audio cassette.
Okay, so there was actually a film cartridge. It wasn't a slideshow. Anyway, you're only getting half the deal here. I don't know where those film cartridges went, and if there were any, there was a ton of them. And, you know, that's how it is. You know, time destroys a lot of information. So, I was a machine gunner in Iraq, a gun truck gunner. And I sure could have used some good training like this. A lot of the stuff I had to pick up on my own. But this is part of the reason I'm putting this to record here up on YouTube. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that gets, erased when the old guys leave and they don't pass on the knowledge, or for whatever reason they get iced or whatever. You don't get this stuff, and so I'm trying to preserve this knowledge for anybody that needs to use it. Hopefully the good guys, you know. They were talking about M60s. I haven't actually fired one of those. They've been put away pretty deep. If you can find them, good for you. The machine guns I used was, of course, 50 cal. That's been around for a hell of a long time. I used the M249 Bravo. What the M240 Bravo is what I used. That's a 7.62, basically M60 equivalent, and I use the M249. See, this is why I didn't want to come back to civilian life. I'm getting rusty. So, anyway, that's really sad, actually. So, yeah, my personal weapon was a saw, and then I had a M240 Bravo on the gun trucks, and the lead and trail had 50 cals. Alright, and once in a while I get on those. So, these are MRAP vehicles. So anyway, long story short, stay tuned. I'm going to put all these little tapes, the ones that are still functional, up here on YouTube, and enjoy my channel. This is a free service. Support my ads. That's the only way I get any kind of kickback. And other than that, you have a good old day. And don't mess with people that know how to do this kind of information. This goes out to the people that want to mess around and cause problems. There's all kinds of people, when you mess with them, they'll pull out some of this training that they've gotten, and your world will be over. So just keep that in mind. You know, peace is a good way to get along with people. Alright? Don't mess with people. Okay. Other than that, you have a good one. I'll keep putting out these videos as I got time. And like I said, stay safe, eat right. There's a lot of information out there how to do that. This is not what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm about ready to close down and go to sleep. I got work tonight. So, anyway, if you got good weather now, thank your blessings, because right now I'm freezing my tootsie off, and it's spring already. So, anyway, we got in this, so you stay tuned, man, or gal, or what's it?